Yu-Gi-Oh! Series names. Each new one is called something different, and I thought I'd take a minute to go through what each of these names means, their significance to their respective series, and just my general thoughts on each of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series' titles. Let's jump straight in first with... Predating the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series that we all know and love, Duel Monsters, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the 1998 Toei adaptation to the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. Now this is the most important title. Yu-Gi-Oh! It is what will permeate through the rest of the series, it will be there for everything else. So, what the hell is a Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, when we break down the word in Japanese, we get to play game king, which when you add those words together, translated, it pretty much means game king or King of Games, which is the title for being the best at games, which in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, this actually encompassed all types of games, not just the Duel Monster card game. This is where Yami Yugi, aka Dark Yugi, was like super sinister. He really was like this evil entity that resided within Yugi's body, who would enact extreme forms of vengeance on the criminals and cheaters. Which is actually a good point to bring up. Yugi is the main character, Yu-Gi-Oh! So what does Yugi's name mean? Well, his name translates as game in Japanese. Just like the name of Yu-Gi-Oh! Would become the staple name for the rest of the series, the character of Yugi, his name would also become a part and a tradition of the rest of the series. All new main characters would have Yu at the start of their names, with Yu essentially meaning game. So yeah, that's how the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series got named. Now, Duel Monsters is the series that we all know and love. Released in the year 2000 and made by Studio Gallop, who would oversee all the future Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows up until Rush. This new title of Duel Monsters is fitting for the reboot because while the previous series and manga focused entirely on all these different types of games to be played, this new show is all about just the Duel Monsters card game. What happened was Kazuki Takahashi was making his manga, his main character played all these different types of games, and then just in one of the chapters during the tabletop horror arc or something like that, he played a spoof of Magic the Gathering, and people, after they read this chapter of the manga, were like, whoa, this is amazing. Where can we play this game in real life? He's like, oh, no, it's made up. I think in one of the next chapters he made like fake rules and everything for it so people could play it at home and everything. And people loved it. So he had an idea. How about we spin Yu-Gi-Oh! Into Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, where we focus entirely on this card game, and that is what our main character is the king of games of. And thanks to that decision, Yu-Gi-Oh! Became a $20 billion company, one of the highest grossing anime franchises in the world. Thanks to listening to audience feedback and going for a reboot of his own series, that's how we got the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters name, and it's perfect. Now, when Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters finished, there was a big void. You would need something great to follow up the series. Well, that is where Yu-Gi-Oh! GX comes in. This 2004 sequel series followed a character called Yuki Judai, a teenager attending Duel Academy. The series name of GX stands for Generation Next, just obviously GX sounds better than GN, I guess. I mean, you could get away with that, but GX, that's what the GX stands for. It's the next generation of the duelists, the new series, if you will. And it's perfect. This is because the show itself is set in the era after Duel Monsters finishes. The school Judai goes to is set up by Seto Kaiba, and we literally have a passing of the torch, so to speak, with the main character of the previous series giving the new main character one of his cards to take with him to Duel Academy. So Yu-Gi-Oh! GX as the sequel series to the original, we'll call Duel Monsters Series 1 from now on, since most people call the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0, so that's Season 0, Season 1, so this would be Series 2. It's 2008, GX has just finished, and we have a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series come out that is all about, well, it's set in the future. We've got an older main protagonist, Yusei Fudo. The show revolves all around the new type of dueling that has replaced standing in one place and dueling, and that is turbo duels. Card games on motorcycles. Now, with a premise like this, you'd think Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds would be called something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Turbo or Yu-Gi-Oh! D-Wheel, which is what they're called in the Japanese, but no, they went with Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. So where did this name come from? Well, first of all, the 5 can throw you off a little bit. It might make you think, oh, is this the 5th series of Yu-Gi-Oh? No, it's just for something else. See, okay, so what's the 5D stand for? Well, it stands for 5 dragons. The story of Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds revolves all around our main character. He has one of the legendary Signer Dragons. There are 5 Signer Dragons in the world, and a bunch of different duelists wield them. Yusei wields the Stardust Dragon, Jack Atlas wields the Red Dragon Archfiend, Akiza Izinski wields the Black Rose Dragon, Crow Hogan wields the Black Winged Dragon, Luna wields the Ancient Fairy Dragon, and Leo wields the Livestream Dragon. So that is how this series got the name of Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds. Really what's that? That was 6 dragons? Right. About halfway through production of Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, they introduced the character of Crow Hogan. He played a Black Winged deck, and people loved these Black Wing cards because they were really good in the real world. So they thought, this guy's making us a lot of money. Why don't we make him a bigger part of this series? Why don't we make him one of the signers? So instead of just sacking off one of the signers and just giving him like Livestream Dragon or something like that, let's just give him his own. Which, one, it ruins the continuity of the show because we had a flashback ages ago and Black Wing Dragon wasn't in the flashback of all the Signer Dragons working together. So that's one thing. 2, each of the Signer Dragons is a different attribute. Stardust is wind, Red Dragon Archfiend is dark, Akiza's fire, Ancient Fairy Dragon is light, and Livestream Dragon is earth. And then we have Black Wing Dragon. It's a dark monster as well. Now we have 2 dark Signer Dragons. Makes no sense. So because of this, honestly, Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, while it made sense at first, it kind of didn't make sense a little bit later. I think they even added an extra Signer Dragon mark. It was like the tail or something. I like the name 5Ds. I just wish there was just 5 dragons in the series. So yeah, I think this is the first one where it's just like it was retroactively hurt a little bit. But if you don't know the 6 dragons, then it's fine. It's 2011, and Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds has just wrapped up. We're now back to a younger protagonist back at school, Yuma Tsukumo. However, this time we have creatures called Baryons from another world, causing shenanigans with their number monsters. Now, the title of the show, Yu-Gi-Oh ZEXAL. What's a ZEXAL, I hear you ask? Well, funnily enough, I actually learned this while making this video. I heard a bunch of people, when they used to pronounce this name, they called it Zeal. They'd use the X as silent. However, it's not silent. It is pronounced ZEXAL. It's said differently in Japan, I think. So what does ZEXAL mean? Well, if you take away the X in the middle, it actually makes the word zeal. That is what this word is referring to. The word zeal means lots of energy or enthusiasm in the pursuit of something. So the question then becomes, well, what's the X in the middle for? Well, actually, the person that helped create the name, he believed that the X in the middle was meant to express the show was twice as hot and passionate. Also because zeal isn't a very catchy title, but you throw the X in there, ZEXAL, sounds a lot better. So I get the logic they were going with. But does this title fit the series? Well, yeah, because Yuma Tsukumo is a very hot and passionate character. He's always backflipping and high-fiving the sky. In the dub, he can be a little bit too passionate sometimes. The smoker voice can get on your nerves a little bit. High-five the sky! Still. Also, it's worth mentioning that ZEXAL is also the name of the power-up that Yuma and Astral get in the show when they fuse together. So it's 2014, ZEXAL is finished. We now move on to Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. We follow the main character, Yuya Sakaki. He's an entertainment-style duelist. He just wants to make people smile and have fun. Is that the premise of the show? Kind of. There is also an interdimensional war going on between the 4 different dimensions, each wielding their own extra deck summoning mechanic. Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, and our new main character, which was the standard dimension, became the pendulum dimension. They go to war, we have to travel to different dimensions, and then finally it's revealed at the end that the 4 Yuyas in each of the dimensions are actually one person. They have to unite and then battle. But it's about smiles, this series. It's all about making people smile. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 title. Where does that name come from? Well, for the first time, the V in this card's name, which is the number 5 in Roman numerals, it is the 5th series. So having a V in there makes absolute sense. Perfect. I wish they'd done this for all of them. That's absolutely fine. But that's not all. Arc 5 is actually a plot point within the show, as in the show, there was a device called Arc 5, which was used at the end of the series with the intention of smashing the 4 dimensions together to create a single united dimension once again. This new dimension was referred to as the 5th dimension. So the Arc machine is creating the 5th dimension. That is where this series got its name, which makes sense as the show is so heavily revolved around this dimensional battle and everything. So yeah, it's a fitting name for the show. Here we get to the last Master Duel series of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. This show follows Yusaku Fujiki, a hacker duelist who, alongside his AI companion, fights against a shady tech company inside the internet. Now, the word VRAINS comes from the technology used inside the show, which the main character uses to go into the internet, basically. It's the VR system. So VRAINS actually stands for Virtual Reality Artificial Intelligence Network System. It is very integral to the show. They are in that virtual world so much. This system is used all the time. It's a perfect name for Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. And this might be me pulling at straws, but one, this is the 6th series. How many letters are in VRAINS? 6. And if we take out a bunch of the letters, we can be left with V and I, which is the Roman numerals for the number 6. But I think that's just a coincidence. Now, following on from this, we get out of my jurisdiction and we move on to 2020, where Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been rebooted into the Rush style of game. Will we ever get Master Duels back? Unsure just yet. I think so at some point. But for now, we're in a new era. Rush Duels, made by Studio Bridge. We'll quickly cover these, but basically they are called Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s because it's the 7th series. The main character, Yugioh, plays a deck of 7s road monsters. And I haven't actually watched the whole show, but the lore of the show is there are 7 unique 7s duelists. Each one, I think, wields a unique attribute or something like that. And the story is when all 7 unite on a full moon or something like that, a warrior will appear and will carve a new road or path or something like that. It's something to do with that. There's a reason why it's called 7s. And then the sequel series to that, 2022's Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. That is called Go Rush because we follow the game of Rush Duels. Rush Duels is all about dueling fast, quick, and efficiently. So the Go in the title is representing the go quicker kind of thing. And I think the main characters in that one, there's like 3 main characters. I think there's 2 main characters and like a Dutra agonist kind of thing, who's like an alien or something. You got the twins, Yuhi and Yuamu. I think I've got their names right. And the Dutra agonist we have is Udius Velgear. Those are all the titles for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, what they mean and why they're called that. If Master Duel Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever got a new series, what would you call it? And what would be based all around? I'd love to hear your ideas in the comment section below. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Catch you later. Bye, everyone.